Good day, students. You're welcome to the English language class. I am Titilayo Shegbe, and the title of our class is Phrases under Grammar. But before we start the class, we're going to review together the assignment we took home the last time we met. If you can recall, we did guidelines to summary writing, and I asked you to identify the topic sentence of a particular short paragraph. So I'll take the paragraph now, then we identify the topic sentence in the paragraph. There are students and there are students. A good student is very hardworking. Such students do not joke with assignments given in class. They are usually the familiar faces in the library. As a matter of fact, good students are called teachers' favorites. There are students and there are students. A good student is very hardworking. Such students do not joke with assignments given in class. They are usually the familiar faces in the library. As a matter of fact, good students are called teachers' favorites. What did you identify as a topic sentence? So the correct answer would be, a good student is very hardworking. That is a topic sentence. A good student is very hardworking. So if you want to summarize that, you want to modify that so that you'll not be committing the error of mindless lifting, you could have a good student is quite industrious, or you can have a good student is quite diligent. Did you notice that every other sentence in that paragraph is illustrating, giving you illustrations on evidences of what a good student does? So that is, by and large, what we do in summary writing. So we're going to today's topic, which is phrases. And we'll start by defining what a phrase is. A phrase is a group of words without a finite verb or without any verb at all. A phrase is a group of words without a finite verb or without any verb at all. I think it is important to ask ourselves, why do we need a knowledge of phrases? Phrases is very relevant because it cuts across a number of aspects of English language in the senior secondary school. You will need to know and master phrases because you need it in summary writing. You will need it while answering comprehension questions. You will need it in essay writing and in general class discussions. If you do not master what phrases are, you get lost in class most times because your teacher would keep referring to phrases. So let's take it again, the meaning of phrases. A phrase is a group of words without a finite verb or without any verb at all. Usually, a phrase cannot on its own make a complete sense. A phrase cannot on its own make a complete sense. Also, phrases usually give additional information about other parts of a sentence. So one of the things you should learn about phrases is that it cannot make a complete sense on its own, and it usually serves to give more information on the other parts of a sentence. The Bible gave us many examples to identify a phrase. One of them is this. In the Bible, Jesus said, "If then God so clothe the grass, which is today in the field, and tomorrow is cast unto the oven, how much more will he clothe you, O ye of little faith?" If you pay close attention to the Bible, you will discover that "O ye of little faith" is a phrase in that sentence. It was set off by a comma. That tells you that "O ye of little faith" can stay away from that sentence. It is simply giving us more information Jesus was just simply using it to describe the people he's talking to. Now, we made mention of one important keyword while explaining what the phrase is. That is the expression finite verb. So we try to ask ourselves, what is a finite verb? Remember, a phrase is a group of words without a finite verb or without any verb at all. What is a finite verb? It is important for us to know what forms of English verbs are, for us to understand what a finite verb is. And to do that, I want to illustrate with two materials. English lexical verbs appear in different forms all the time. At least they have 6 forms in which they appear, just like a plant like cassava. Cassava can be processed to give you a local food called fufu. It can appear in the form of a cloth starch. It can be processed to give you gari. It can give you the tapioca drink. Those are the different forms that cassava can appear. English verbs are like that too. Not only that, let's look at the example of the processed flour. Flour can appear in the form of puff-puff. It can become meat pie. It can become biscuits. It can become cake. It also appears in form of bread. English verbs are like that too. In fact, it can appear as your favorite donut. English verbs also can appear in the basic form, the S form, the past form, the participial form, the continuous form, which is also called the ing form, and the to infinitive form. Remember, it is still the same verb that is assuming different forms, appearing in different ways. English lexical verbs can appear in the basic form, the S form, the past form, the participial form, the continuous form, which we can also call the ing form, and the infinitive form, which we can also call the to form. So, we'll go back to the meaning of a finite verb. A finite verb is a verb that appears in its basic form, S form, or past form. These are the first 3 forms of English verbs. Remember, English lexical verbs appear in 6 forms: basic form, S form, past form, participial, ing, and the to form. A finite verb is a verb in its either basic, S, or past form. That takes us back to the meaning of a phrase. What is a phrase? A phrase is a group of words without a finite verb or without any verb at all. Let's illustrate this with this table. If you look at this table very well, you see the 6 forms of the verb and examples of the verb that are appearing in the 6 forms. Look at the word sing. The verb sing is a basic form. The S form of the word sing is sings. The past form is sang. The participial form is song. And the ing form is singing. And the to form is to sing. Write. The basic form of the verb write is write. S form is writes. Past form is wrote. Participial form is written. Ing form is writing. And to form is to write. Be has 9 forms. Be, are, and am appear under the basic form. Is the S form of the verb be. Was and were are the past form. And then we have been under the participial form, been under the ing form, and to be. So we have also broken down have and do. Because we're focusing on the finite verbs, we're just going to extract these forms, the first three forms of these verbs. So the first three forms of these verbs that we're using as example are finite verbs. Let's illustrate this with examples, full sentences. Number one, the world population dwindles as a result of the new coronavirus pandemic. The world population dwindles as a result of the new coronavirus pandemic. I have underlined as a result of the new coronavirus pandemic. That is a phrase in that sentence. Because if you look at this group of words, as a result of the new coronavirus pandemic, there is no verb in it at all. Phrases are as simple as that. As a result of a new coronavirus pandemic does not have any verb in it at all, so it's a phrase. Let's go to another example. Because of experiences such as this, people are wary of hosting strangers. Because of experiences such as this, people are wary of hosting strangers. I underline because of experiences such as this. The underlined expression is also a phrase because it does not have any verb. Mind you, the word experiences in that expression is not a verb, it's a noun. So, because of experiences such as this is a phrase. Another example. When in doubt of what to do, don't act. When in doubt of what to do, don't act. Underlined when in doubt of what to do. A word appears to be a verb there, but it's actually not a finite verb. The expression is do. But don't consider do alone. Before do, there is a word, to. So anytime you see a word that has to and the verb, you take them together. To do is a non-finite verb. So, when in doubt of what to do does not have a finite verb, so it's a phrase. When in doubt of what to do does not have a finite verb, it has a non-finite verb. So, when in doubt of what to do is a phrase. We take another example. Children's programming has seen a rise in viewership. Children's programming has seen a rise in viewership. I underline children's programming. Again, the word programming appears to be a verb, yes, but it's the continuous form of the verb program. So, children's programming is another phrase. Children's programming is a phrase, not a clause. Another example. Even with the measures in place, confirmed global coronavirus cases exceed 200. I underline even with the measures in place. No verb in this expression at all. No verb in the underlined expression. So, even with the measures in place is another phrase. Even with the measures in place is a phrase. Let's go to number 6. During one of the president's made-the-press conferences, a foreign journalist asked him a rude question. During one of the president's made-the-press conferences, a foreign journalist asked him a rude question. I underlined during one of the president's made-the-press conferences. It's another phrase because it does not have a verb at all. Look at the word meet in that underlined expression. It is not a verb. It's actually a compound adjective. So if you just take a careful look at the expressions, you discover that they do not have a finite verb. Just ask yourself, this underlined expression, can I identify a finite verb in it? Can I identify any verb in it? If your answer is no, then it's a phrase. Another example, we finished the work within the stipulated time. We finished the work within the stipulated time. I underlined within the stipulated time. Another phrase. Mind you, the word stipulated is not a verb. It's an adjective. Within the stipulated time is not a phrase, is a phrase and not a clause. We're going to do a quick exercise together to test our understanding of the concept called phrases. I'll read a set of sentences to you. I divide each sentence into two parts. You will tell me which of the parts is a phrase in the sentence. The first one, the board of governors of the company has taken a decision. I divided it into the board of governors of the company is the first part, has taken a decision is the second part. Can you attempt that? Which of these two parts is a phrase in the sentence? The first part says, the board of governors of a company, and the second says, has taken a decision. Quickly take a look and tell us which of them is a phrase. You will be right if you identify the board of governors of the company as a phrase because it is a part of a sentence that does not have a verb. Number two, his positive attitude earned him the golden opportunity. His positive attitude earned him the golden opportunity. We divide this sentence into his positive attitude and earned him the golden opportunity. Which of these two parts is a phrase in the sentence? Is it his positive attitude or earned him the golden opportunity? You will be correct if you have chosen his positive attitude because it is the part of a sentence that does not have any verb at all. Let's go to number three. The sentence is, my mother loves to have a hot cup of coffee every morning. We divide the sentence into my mother loves is the first part. The second part says to have a cup of coffee every morning. Which of these two parts do you think is a phrase? If you have chosen to have a hot cup of coffee every morning, you are correct because the verb there is to have. It's a non-finite verb. It is not a finite verb. So to have a hot cup of coffee every morning is the phrase in it. Sentence 4. David is a man after God's own heart. David is a man after God's own heart. We divide the sentence into David is a man and after God's own heart. The first part says David is a man, and the second part of the sentence is after God's own heart. Which would you identify as a phrase? The phrase in the sentence is after God's own heart because it does not have any verb. The second part has a finite verb, is. The last sentence, Mr. Joshua is the oldest surviving teacher in my school. Mr. Joshua is the oldest surviving teacher in my school. The sentence is divided into Mr. Joshua is, and the second part is the oldest surviving teacher in my school. Which of these two is a phrase? I hope you went for the oldest surviving teacher in my school because that's a phrase. It does not have any verb at all. The first part of a sentence has a finite verb, is. That is what phrase is about. Remember, a phrase is a group of words without a finite verb or without any verb at all. Also remember that a finite verb is the verb in its basic s or past form. Verbs have 6 forms. The basic s and past form makes the finite verb. The participial, the continuous, and the infinitive form are the non-finite verbs. I'll just give you some set of sentences. I want you to take that as an assignment. Just as we've done in this class exercise, you're also going to identify which part of the sentences is the phrase. The first one, I live at the end of the street. That's sentence 1. I live at the end of the street. It's divided into I live. That's the first part. The second part is at the end of the street. Identify which of these two is a phrase. Number 2, the guests walking in with the chairman are to be served first. The guests walking in with the chairman are to be served first. This sentence is divided into the guests walking in with the chairman as the first part. The second part is are to be served first. Which of these two is the phrase? Number 3, meet Susan, my friend and confidant. Meet Susan, my friend and confidant. This sentence is divided into meet Susan, the first part. The second part is my friend and confidant. Try and identify which of these two parts is a phrase. Number 4, the overall best student award in English language goes to Ikechukwu. The overall best student award in English goes to Ikechukwu. This sentence is divided into the overall best student award in English, the first part. The second part is goes to Ikechukwu. Which of these two parts is the phrase in the sentence? The last sentence. He did not state the specific reason for his late coming. He did not state the specific reason for his late coming. This sentence is divided into 1, he did not state. And the second part is the specific reason for his late coming. Till I meet you again, I believe you'll be ready for this exercise. God bless you. Stay safe.
You are welcome to another edition of this class. My name is Taiwo Alamu, and just as we did the last class, we shall be discussing literature in English. Literature in English. And the topic we are still considering is literary appreciation. Under that, we shall continue where we stopped, on figures of speech. I said in last class that figures of speech are vital elements of literary appreciation. But before we continue with today's topic, I would like to give a solution to the assignment given the last class. And the assignment, I said, number 1, define literary appreciation. Literary appreciation, we said, is the various ways by which we read meanings to works of literature. Literary appreciation is the various ways by which we read meanings and values to the work of literature. That is, the various methods employed to ascertain the meaning intended and the beauty found in various works of literature. Number 2, mention and explain 3 figures of speech and give 2 examples of each. Let me take number 1 as simile. Simile. What again is simile? We say simile is a figure of speech that compares, or we say it's a figure of comparison, which compares 2 ideas of different nature. I take it again. Simile is a figure of speech that compares 2 ideas of different nature in an indirect manner, using as or like. Using as or like to compare. The essence of the indirectness of the comparison lies in the as or like, which simile uses to compare. That is, it does not go straight. And let me give examples. Number 1, we say, Smith is as dark as a charcoal. Smith is as dark as a charcoal. Example 2, my friend drives like blah blah. We can mention something. Or better still, you say, the boy is as tall as a mahogany tree. The boy is as tall as a mahogany tree. Figure of speech 2, metaphor. Metaphor. What is metaphor again? We said metaphor is a figure of speech which also compares 2 ideas of different nature in a direct way. Metaphor is another figure of comparison which compares 2 ideas of different natures in a direct manner. That is, it makes one idea as the other. We say that metaphor is a figure of speech which operates on the principle of equation. Metaphor is a figure of speech which operates on the principle of equation. What does this mean? It makes one thing the other. For example, we say, mother is gold. Mother is gold. In this sentence, we discover that the speaker is talking about how precious mother is. And so he equates the precious nature of mother to how precious gold is in a direct manner. Not saying mother is as precious as gold, but mother is gold. Example 2. John is a pig. John is a pig. Here is a human being, John, compared directly to an animal, pig. This may be due to semblance of John with pig in the manner of being dirty or not being clean enough. So we say John is a pig, talking about John is a dirty fellow. Number 3, personification. Personification. What is personification? This is another figure of speech that takes the attribute of a human being and transfers to an idea that is lifeless. I say again, personification is a figure of speech that transfers an attribute of a human being to an inanimate object. It makes a human out of a lifeless idea. Personification makes a human out of a lifeless idea. And if you look at the name very well, you see that it starts from person. To personify means to make a person out of an idea that is not a person. And what are the attributes of humans that we are talking about? We talk about sing, we talk about smile, we talk about run, we talk about go, and the rest of them. For example, we say, time waits. Time waits for no one. Time waits for no one. Time waits for no one. This is an example of personification. We use the word wait, which is an attribute of a human, talking about time. Another example is death. has laid death has laid his icy hand. Death has laid his icy hand on the king. Death has laid his icy hand on the king. Death is an invisible idea here, but we have transferred the action laid, which is peculiar to human, to death, making death a person here. That is, we have personified death by saying it has laid its icy hand on the king. That is the solution to the last assignment. Today, by God's grace, we continue where we stopped. And it is my strong belief that at the end of today's lesson, you should be able to mention and explain more figures of speech. You should be able to mention and explain more figures of speech. At the same time, you should be able to give more examples of these figures of speech you have mentioned. You should be able to give more examples of new figures of speech you are going to learn. We start now. The first figure of speech we are going to consider today is paradox. This figure of speech occurs in any expression which presents a seemingly absurd idea. A seemingly absurd idea. And when we say an idea is absurd, it means it looks as if it has no meaning. An idea is absurd when it looks or it appears as if it is meaningless. The seeming absurdity later turns out to have a valid meaning after a listener takes a close examination of the expression made. We said a paradox is a statement which looks, which has a seemingly absurd look, but the absurdity later turns out to have a valid meaning after a listener takes a close examination of the expression made. It is a statement appearing senseless, but later shows its meaning. Paradox is a statement appearing senseless, but later shows its meaning. For example, we say the child is the father of the man. The example here is absurd in nature. Anyone looking at this will think, oh, this is a foolish idea. It has no meaning. But when you look at it critically, you discover that this is a sentence that has a valid meaning. How do we mean here? Here is a child, a young person, and there is a man, an adult. As the child grows, it grows into a full matured man. And the man also grows into an old man. The man here becomes, while at the level of child, he is a dependent on the man. But when he grows, he becomes a man who takes responsibility of the man who has later grown old, now needing the help of the child of that day. And that is the valid meaning we find in the expression above. Another example is, those who will live will die. Those who will live will die. And those who will die will live. I take it again. Those who will live will die. And those who will die will live. This may also sound absurd in nature, but when you consider it very well, you see that it has a meaning. I'm sure you can see it on the screen at home. When we say those who will live will die, it is believed that here on earth we live, and there is a hope of another life, that is eternity. Those who will die must first live. That is, before a man will die, he will live on earth. And those who will die will live. Those who die here, who have the hope of heaven, will still live. And that is the valid meaning we take out of that expression that you can see on your screen at home. Those who will live, for you to live in heaven, you must pass through death. That is, we are not going to heaven with our mortal body. There must be a transformation. Those who will live will die first. And those who will die will live. Those who die have a hope of living. We move on. The next figure of speech is irony. This figure of speech occurs in any statement in which the speaker's spoken words turn out to have a contradictory meaning to reality. It is a statement which draws a margin between what is said in a particular speaker and reality. Irony is a figure of speech that draws a margin, that is, it shows a difference between what a speaker says and reality, that is, what is known by everyone. For example, King Kongi is an extremely generous king. He collects taxes even from road beggars. Another example, Johnson is the most brilliant student in our class. He fails only 6 papers in every examination written. In the 2 examples above, we say something that is contradictory to reality. In the first example, we talk about a king who is extremely generous, but we say he collects taxes even from poor ones, the poorest of the poor, roadside beggars. The other example, we call somebody the most brilliant boy, but he fails 6 papers in any examination the class writes. Indeed, you can see there is a contradiction in reality to what speakers of the statements made. Another example we are going to talk about is sarcasm. This is a form of irony which occurs when an insincere remark is made by a speaker. And I want you to pay attention here so as for you not to mix up irony and sarcasm. We said sarcasm is a close cousin of irony. And so we say it's a form of irony which occurs when a speaker makes an insincere remark. We say a statement is sarcastic when the speaker of such does not mean what he says. A statement is said to be sarcastic when the speaker of such does not mean what he says, but speaks just to tease. He speaks to tease, mock, or ridicule his listener. A speaker speaks to tease, to mock, or ridicule his listener. For example, here comes the latest millionaire who has made his money from faulty shoes. This statement here is referring to a shoe cobbler. We describe this man as the latest millionaire who has made his fortune from faulty shoes. You can imagine how rich someone can be. I'm sure rich in quotes now. Repairing faulty shoes, that is, bad soles of shoes, and we call him the latest millionaire. This is a statement that is not sincere. Number 2, we say, my love for you is so deep. I have just concluded my plans to give you my 2 kidneys before taking you to the altar. My love for you is so deep. I have just concluded my plans to give you my 2 kidneys before taking you to the altar. Here is a young man making a statement of love, professing love to a young lady he wishes to woo or to have in love, promising or giving an insincere promise to give 2 kidneys before taking the lady to the altar. I know you and I know that a man who has given out the 2 kidneys, I wonder how he can survive. Sarcasm. The next one, inversion. This is a deliberate reversal of the syntactic elements. When we say syntactic elements, we are talking about the grammatical arrangements of the elements in a sentence. The syntactic elements are the grammatical elements found in a sentence, in an order. To achieve, and this reversal is done to achieve the effect of emphasis or rhythm. This reversal is done to achieve the purpose of emphasis or rhythm. That is to achieve emphasis of an idea, to emphasize an idea, or to simply achieve the flow, a rhythmic flow of sound. It is otherwise known as anastrophe. Another name for inversion is anastrophe. For example, one of the poems of a European writer by the name W.B. Yeats, titled An Irish Airman Foresees His Death. In that poem, we have a sentence which is reversed in its order. The years ahead seemed a waste of breath. A waste of breath seemed the years ahead. That line is reversed in order for W.B. Yeats to emphasize the idea of the shortness of the remainder of his life. That is, he has a hopeless life to live, as the little it remains for him to be a man. Another example is, King was I yesterday. King was I yesterday, and long before. This line could have started with the subject of the sentence. That is, I was a king yesterday. But for the sake of reading, the poet put it as king was I yesterday and long before. And let me take one more before I give the assignment for today. Oxymoron. Oxymoron is a figure of speech which juxtaposes, that is, places side by side, two words with contradictory meanings. Two words that have opposite meanings are put side by side. This is often done to create a surprise in readers. Oxymoron is often done to create a surprise in readers. E.g., we say Kenneth's involvement in the robbery case has become an open secret. Another example is taken from Animal Farm, a popular novel written by George Orwell. Comrades, a pig speaks there. Comrades, let us rejoice at the happy death of our master. Let us rejoice at the happy death of our masters. The juxtaposition of these two contradictory words creates an example of oxymoron. Before we meet the next class, I want to leave you with this assignment. You are going to read the extract taken from Wole Soyinka's The Lion and the Jewel. The extract is there. You are going to read it and answer the questions following it. Question 1 says, the first underlined expression, my love will open your heart like the chestnut leaf in the morning. What figure of speech occurs there? The first underlined expression, my love will something to morning, is an example of dash. Number 2, dash is the figure of speech that occurs in can the stones dash to this. And number 3, the dead of this village, underlined also, is a good example of dash. You are going to fill these gaps after you have read the extract on your screen, as you can see. Till the next time we are going to meet, my name is Taiwo Alamu, and I say, stay safe and God bless.